How did you start pursuing your career then? Are you just kind of a comedian that just kind of just said, fuck it, I'm going to do it one day, or?
I tried quite a few things when I was, like I'm from Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, and there's not a whole lot of opportunities for anything out there besides maybe, like just standard low-level office jobs or whatever industry happens to be in the town. Some things myself, but I wanted to be a pro wrestler, so I moved to Toronto initially to do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that lasted about a year and a half. So I applied to the Humber comedy program out here. I thought, well, I had no idea how to even get not even open mics in Cape Breton. So I was like, this would be a good way to get into the business. So I came out here with the idea of being a writer. It's a 2-year course, and you do script writing, you do sketch, improv, stand-up class. And when I was there, I maybe did stand-up 50 times over the 2 years.
Wow.
And I mean, I just did kind of like the requisite amount, and thought, oh, I'll be a writer afterwards. And then when school ended, but for about 6 months, I did nothing. I worked a couple odd jobs and sat around, and then a little over, I guess, going on 4 years, I just decided to go to an open mic one night, and then without even realizing it just became my whole life.
Oh, wow.
And then within a couple of weeks, it was like, went from 3 times a week to like 4 times to every night, and now it's multiple times a night.
Oh,
It's
wow.
like, it's just like, what happened? It was 2011, like last week or whatever. Yeah, from the book, because I try to get in anywhere from, I put it at like 12 to 30 shows a week. And I usually average around like 16 to 25 or so. And it's anywhere, I mean, in this coffee shop, we'll show sometimes there, in a Legion Hall or a pool hall, and you're like, well, I guess I'm going to talk about my penis while these guys are trying to bowl, right? And everybody's drunk, and I'm like, I don't know if I can listen to you. And then it just becomes, you have to, talk to them to get them to listen to my opinion on whatever the fuck I'm going to talk about. So, it's always just like, you have to almost remove any sort of ego from the process. I've talked to a lot of comics over the years who wouldn't do certain rooms or would only do specific ones, and my philosophy was always, I should always be a little uncomfortable.
Okay.
And if I'm in a scenario where I'm too comfortable, it's like, maybe I should be uncomfortable with that then.
Okay.
It should always be a challenge, and I mean, wherever it is, every type of person, all the time, every scenario, it can't hurt. It can only hurt your ego, but I think that was beaten out of me.
Well, for you, what do you find the hardest part of being a comedian is?
Being authentic all the time on stage it's the easiest thing when it happens, and when I embrace it fully, it's like, oh man, it's just like, it just feels so awesome.
What do you mean by authentic?
Like it could be anything. If I go on stage and talk about something that's just really, really important to me, like I do a lot of jokes about being molested when I was a kid, and initially that was super hard. I would go up and it'd be awkward, and it's like, obviously, and you're making eye contact with people who are just sometimes just trying to eat their dinner, and for a long time they were like, it wasn't working because I wasn't comfortable with it. Once I got comfortable with it, no, it works fairly consistently now. And but it doesn't have to be something that dark and personal. It could even be a joke about being in traffic or something. As long as you're honest about it, it tends to have the best potential to work. Because I think comedy has to be authentic.
Okay.
And if you're not being honest, and I think people get that right away, because comedy is releasing tension, and it's, that old analogy of telling the emperor he's naked, right?
Okay.
It's like, if you're not doing that, it's like, what's your job? You gotta be, hey, this is what's going on here. That has to be underneath everything. And if it's not at least the pursuit of that, then the audience feels uncomfortable. I feel uncomfortable. My worst sets, like I can always deal with a bomb that's just based on what I've written, or just feeling, maybe I just don't feel funny today, and you're on stage like, oh, this is gross. Or there's a disconnect between, what the audience wants to hear and what I'm doing, didn't read the room properly, all that stuff. I can live with that because that's all learning, but when I'm on stage and feel like I'm lying, even if I'm saying real things with my emotions and I'm holding back, that's hard to deal with. Because then it's just like, fuck, I feel worse. And I just wanted to get this shit out.
No, that like you didn't expect or you didn't realize when you first started.
I think how deep stand-up really goes. Like everybody will cite Richard Pryor as their number one influence, right? He's on the top of everybody's list. And when I started and I watched his specials, I was like, oh, it's funny, but I didn't really understand it. And I'm like, I don't. And it's not just like the subject matter. It was just I didn't get where his authenticity was coming from. Having done it for a few years, and having my own whatever my meltdowns are on stage, and I watch it back now, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, so that's about as savagely real as you can get. So I just think it hits me a lot harder. Really good comedy, and when I see, but I think that the way I've evolved as a person, I got into comedy. I couldn't talk to women. I couldn't, just socially, I had like no confidence whatsoever. And after a few years, and it's certainly not that I'm like perfect today in those things, but I'm definitely much better than I was, and it's because of stand-up. For sure, I came into it as like an insecure, chubby guy who just felt pretty much suicidal when I lived in Cape Breton. And through stand-up and being really honest with myself, I realized what I had to change, and I realized what was good about me too. Stand-up is when you're that honest on stage, it's impossible to not be honest off stage. And
Well, thank you for this. This has been excellent. I had a great time. Hopefully,
yeah, dude.
Hopefully we learned something. This is the Comedy Cabaret's one-on-one with Justin Laite.